Here, folks. It's our final demo of E3 2013 here on Stage 1 of GameSpot's live coverage, and it's my distinct pleasure to welcome Greg Kasavin to the stage.
Thank you.
Creative Director at Supergiant Games. Greg, so glad to see you.
Thank you. It's really great to be here.
It's great to have you. And for those of you who don't know, Greg, actually former site director, longtime editor in awesomeness of GameSpot.com.
Thanks.
But now working at Supergiant, you guys had great success with Bastion, and now Transistor is what you're showing off here at E3.
That's right. Yeah, it's really amazing to be here. We didn't think we'd be at E3 at all because we go to smaller shows like PAX, but the guys at Sony got a chance to play Transistor when we announced it just a couple of months ago, and they really liked it and said, how'd you like to go to E3? And when someone says, do you want to go to E3? You say yes.
You say yes, absolutely. And then they put you on their main stage.
Yeah, that was crazy. I watch those press conferences every single time, year after year. I never thought I'd see them from that particular perspective.
Now you have entered history of E3 press conferences with Transistor, and I don't want to talk too much more before people get to actually look at the game, because like Bastion, this game is beautiful. You guys have just an incredible art style. You just must have a roster of artists there that just knock your socks off.
Bastion had one artist on the team. Yeah,
well, that artist is awesome.
Yeah, she is great. She does great work.
All right, so we've got it set up here. Yes. Would it be?
Seems like our picture went. There we go.
Let's try to put this up on the.
Oh, do you mind leaving it down?
Oh no,
I can see it on the screen. Yeah.
No, okay, sorry.
Do not. Yeah, it's all good. So are we getting?
Yeah, all right, so here we are. We're going to switch to the gameplay feed now and set the stage for Transistor while we take a look at this red-headed woman, the protagonist.
Yeah, she, imaginatively, I suppose, she is called Red, and we are about to see here that this is representative of the game opening. I'm sure the final game, this will be somewhat different. We're just kind of setting the stage here. But in short, she's having a very bad evening when... It's a
bad day, and her life changed pretty abruptly.
That's right. She survives an attempt on her life and soon discovers the weapon that was used to try to kill her. So here she is.
In her evening gown, which just...
Yeah, she is not... She is not expecting to be in this particular situation.
She's not garbed for walking around on rooftops.
Yes, and she will soon change that particular aspect. But yeah, so you discover here, you guys in the audience unfortunately are not getting the audio, but there's a voice coming from this weapon, and it's the voice of, if you look closely there, the weapon is embedded in a man's body, and the voice belongs to that man.
Belongs to that man?
Yeah, so...
Interesting, so... Is that...
There we go.
The one and only.
Now we're getting some audio.
Hang on to it, okay?
Yeah, thank you.
So the man is telling her the sword is the one and only Transistor.
Yeah, and he's explaining that he's safe now inside the Transistor itself, and we need to get out of here. So they're in this kind of dangerous situation, and they need to get out of town. So, you know, much like our previous game, we want this game to be very easy to pick up and start playing. So it's kind of basic action RPG mechanics here.
Yep.
But you'll see pretty quickly here that there's a lot more to it than that. But of course, we want to start you off just with the basics. You run into these unusual, let's say, creatures called the Process, and they have some strange properties. For example, they turn into these cells whenever they're destroyed that are going to respawn unless you collect them and kind of absorb them into the Transistor itself.
You can't just lay waste. You gotta lay waste and then clean up after yourself.
Yeah, that's right. And you'll see in a minute kind of why it's quite fun from a gameplay perspective, because we force you to we flush you out of cover, you know, force you to get out of comfortable places.
Well, it's interesting how you're sort of, you know, you're creating that cover within the situation. It sort of gives you this this rising pillar of light sort of system, gives you that kind of flexibility. But now, what is?
Yeah. So here. Uh-oh. We just, whoops. There it goes. We just lost picture. I think it'll come back in a second. Uh-oh. Sorry, I don't know what's happening there. Oh, that's great.
Let's just check the power connections. I think we're good back here.
Wow. Terrible. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
The game just, I will restart it.
This is live broadcast.
Yes.
Now
doing it live.
Greg, while you...
this is like this is the first crash of E3. Thank you.
You almost made it. You almost made it. You know what
terrible.
they say? It's like it's the home stretch
Yeah,
that
so
gets
this
you every
is
time.
we're not set up to do portable demonstrations very well, so my apologies. That was thankfully that happened right near the beginning. I think hopefully we can get back there real quick.
Oh yeah, that should be no problem. And you know, it was right at that moment that you were about to launch into explaining what exactly we were seeing on screen, so because it was almost sort of a freeze time, plan out your moves
that's
kind of thing.
that's our game's. We call it. The ability is called turn, and essentially at any point you can stop the entire world and plan your next set of actions out. It causes the game to take on this like much more strategic sort of mode of play compared to our previous game. And what we were going for with it was like we wanted much more sort of dramatic ebb and flow to the combat, instead of just like in an action-oriented game it could all happen really, really quickly. But in Transistor, you could have these moments where, you know, really powerful enemies are bearing down on you, and it looks like all hope is lost, but you can turn things around really quickly.
Because you've got the turn ability,
right.
and that's it's interesting when you think of the pace of combat. You know, if you're entering in Bastion, if you're entering an area, you know, you're sort of assessing all the threats and working your way through them, and then maybe taking on another wave.
Yeah.
But this is almost like a lull, and the higher highs and lower lows just creates a much more dramatic
exactly.
situation.
And you could deliberate over you know how you're going to get out of a bad situation and sort of take as much time as you want. You'll see.
You do have you can hold on to that turn ability time. There's no sort of tick down.
You have unlimited time as long as you're in that mode, and you can like undo. You could sort of come up with a perfect plan and then pull the trigger on it.
All right.
So here we are. We're back
here.
again. Apologies for the deja vu here, but this is just kind of the only tutorial we give you, as it were. You get this one little moment where you see the potential of this. If you see that bar at the top of the screen, I can't use my weapons again until it recharges.
And so
now I can pull the trigger and go into it again. You watch the bar dwindle, and I could plan all sorts of moves. And let's say I don't like that plan, I can undo, do it over. And it's really quick and easy to set up. And we wanted to like capture this more strategic mode of play within like the easy to use mechanics of an action RPG, but hopefully come up with a system that had plenty of depth.
Yeah, and I like the strategic angle too. That once you've executed the move, if you haven't wipe the slate clean, if there's still enemies remaining, you better not just leave yourself right in front of them, because they're quick, they're gonna have time to put some fire on you.
That's exactly right, and that's how we kind of that's kind of how we capture the experience of a turn-based game, where the enemies, you know, get their own little moment of opportunity to retaliate if you leave yourself open.
It's not just you taking the turns.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's and our use of cover in the game, it's like these strange, you know, white pillars that are popping up. They're affiliated with man, I don't know why this is happening. It's terrible.
Oh, did that?
Sorry.
No,
it's like it'll come back. There's like a
Should I like swipe the touchpad every 2 minutes?
Maybe so.
Right.
Yeah, apologies for that.
That's quite all right. We've had various hiccups throughout the live broadcast. Our audience, you know, they know we do it live. All right, so yeah, what's Red getting up to now?
So in this particular situation, these enemies are kind of distracted doing their own up to bad news, and you can, you know, setting up how you can plan, you know, to kind of cause as much mayhem as possible. Oh, I missed that guy, and then I want to get behind cover here. So, and you could, you know, so we want a lot of the. We find that like different people use this ability in a lot of different ways, and that's when we felt like we were really onto something with it. Like
you guys were showing at PAX East, you had a couple rows of kiosks or setups for people to play. Was it one of those situations where you walk around and you watch people playing, and it's just fascinating to see them cut loose in your own game?
No, absolutely, because we wanted, you know, the goal of it was to have like an open-ended system where people can play it in like a pretty expressive way, whether they want to be like really methodical or really careful. And we see people kind of do all sorts of different things with it.
And speaking of different things, you just learned a new trick.
Yes, I acquired a new ability from this fallen young woman here who's been consumed by the process. So it's a bit of a hint at where the Transistor acquires new powers, stuff like that.
It's you.
And so these poster moments. Is this sort of a way that you delve back into Red's backstory?
Yeah, that's right.
Sort of
this is revealing a little bit about Red here and the particular predicament that she's in. Learning more about the character and her relationship to the person speaking. But
that relationship, in Bastion it was the narrator and the main character, but here we've got Red, and the voice is coming from the sword from Transistor.
And we want to, and he's a character who is like piecing together this situation as it unfolds. He doesn't really know what's going to happen here, but he knows something about it, and he knows this town really well. And we hope that, through the course of the story of this game, that it'll just be a really interesting relationship between the two of them.
And interesting too for you guys, because the Bastion narrator reported on what was going on and at times knew more than the player did and would allude to things, and sort of that was, so that's one way to do narrator. But here, this is not an omniscient, not a narrator.
That's right. Yeah. And in fact, we try to play with that as well, where this is a character who actually he doesn't even know what Red is thinking. And we try to play with that a little bit, where he has certain ideas about what she should do and what she's up to. But I didn't mention, but as part of the story, Red herself no longer has a voice, so she can't speak back to him. So he's kind of wondering what's going through her head, and of course, he can't know what's going through your head as a player. So we try to have a little fun with that.
Play with him and the frustration that must come of that if he's trying to figure out what's going on the greater mystery.
To the extent that this game is about like a relationship between two people, one of the challenges of any relationship is like knowing for sure what the other person is thinking, and so hopefully there'll be some interesting stuff around that.
Yeah. All right, so can you tell us a little bit about the city here, because it has certainly a modern type space, a technological space.
Yeah,
but also some ethereal elements to it. This lighting is very sumptuous for something.
Yeah, we wanted to create like this kind of so here what you're seeing is this is not what the city normally looks like. This is the city beginning to be sort of destroyed by the process. But normally, this city of Cloudbank is from our goal was to create this kind of romanticized city. This really kind of spectacular place, and it's a place where people have it really good. And we saw earlier, the city, everything seems to be fine in the city, but the process is pursuing Red wherever she goes and desperately trying to recover this weapon. So that's kind of a big...
something must be not quite fine.
Something is not right for sure. Something bad is beginning to happen here, and that's going to unfold over the course of the story.
Beautiful.
I got away from that guy. So yeah, I'm hopefully you've seen some examples of me. I gained this new ability called the Jaunt, so I can use this to like teleport behind this guy, really go to town on him.
Do a little backstabs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Notice these sort of little meter. The list tallies up of your actions, and so you can sort of the different attacks that depend on positioning, but also depending on which ability you're actually using.
Yeah, exactly, and there are different combinations and different kind of position-based bonuses that you could get and so forth. We want to make players feel really good about hatching pretty elaborate plans. But of course the direct approach can work well too.
All right, we've got some questions about Transistor coming in through the chat here, Greg. So Gilianos. Nope, that's not the one I'm looking for. Padbot, curious to know about hidden items throughout the level, which I guess, speaks to the larger question of level design and what your sort of approach is.
We showed a little bit of that. Some of the new powers and things that you'll get will likely be tucked away, and you'll find more information about the world of the game kind of off the beaten path.
Yep.
We plan to do a lot of stuff with that. It's not... I think we'll reward off the beaten path exploration for sure.
Nice. And off the beaten path places you can see, it's interesting the sort of visual parallels between this and Bastion, that, the world is created already. It's not sort of flipping up into view, that neat mechanic you guys had there. But the way that these cover pillars come into play is still that kind of, it gives it this dynamic feel, this sort of creative feel that the world is like making itself as you progress through it.
Yeah, that's cool. Like what we want to, I think part of what we're going for in this case is and we're only sort of scratching the surface with it so far, I think, is this sense that the process is really just, it's just following you kind of relentlessly. So as you go, this like something, in Bastion, the world was forming up around you, and that was like I think like a positive feeling. But here with the process, I think it's you kind of want it to get away from you. You kind of want it to stop.
Yeah, it's like corrupting around you
right.
almost. So do you just call this guy a jerk?
Yes, he's called a jerk. That's a little, yeah. That's the voice coming from the sword called him a jerk when we first saw him earlier, and now he's called a jerk when we saw him again. So, and in fact, there's a little more subtle stuff like that. These are called creeps.
There was a young lady earlier.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's very observant of you.
Well, it allows you guys to be a little playful with your naming there,
yes.
which is neat. So, people are really sort of latching onto the audio-visual presentation.
Yeah.
Miss Terrad wants to know, who's the music composer? Is it the same composer as Bastion?
Absolutely. That is the music and all the audio is the work of Mr. Darren Korb, who's our audio director. Everyone who worked on Bastion, including Darren, is back on this project. We were 7 on Bastion. We're up to 10 people now. We once again have music with vocals by Ashley Barrett. Who works closely with Darren to create, they created really fantastic stuff in Bastion's case, and we're trying to do really interesting stuff with it here. In fact, the music in some ways is even more integral to this game. The character herself is a singer and so on. So,
well, was a singer.
Yes, was. It's true.
Where has her voice gone? Certainly one of the mysteries people will be pursuing in Transistor. The mystery I want to know right now, do I get to ride that sweet motorcycle?
You're riding it, yeah. This is the very end of the slice of the game we have to show here. But yeah.
Back to those two.
All right, folks are curious a little bit more about the skills, and we sort of saw an array. You've got ones that require you to be right up next to the player. You had that, you acquired that one that sort of did like a little scatter bomb. Yeah. Type thing.
Yeah, what we're showing is just kind of a small selection of the many different abilities you'll have to work with when the game is finally done. We want there to be really interesting stuff around like configuring the transistor, finding different abilities for it, and mixing and matching those, and having that be part of the strategy that you take into battle with you.
Now, mixing and matching, is that just is there an element of customization or of choosing which powers you have equipped? I noticed there was at the bottom of the screen was sort of your active skills.
Yeah, that's absolutely what we have in mind. We don't really show it off as part of this, but that's where it's all going, and we hope there will be like a lot of interesting surprises there, because part of the game is about discovering what the transistor is all about and it having its own kind of chaotic power. Hopefully it'll keep you guessing all the way through.
Well, it certainly sounds like there's a lot of intrigue in Transistor, and if you folks aren't charmed by that art style and intrigued by that gameplay, then what are you doing, man? This is E3. This is a cool, really awesome game. Greg, Transistor, can you give us or you guys have a release date pinned down or platforms that you could inform us about?
We just announced at E3 it is making its console debut on the PlayStation 4 and coming to PC as well in early next year sometime.
All right, excellent. Greg Kasavin, Supergiant Games. That's Transistor, ladies and gentlemen. And that concludes our final demo here on the live stage show. But don't go away just yet. I'm going to keep Greg here. Cool. I'm going to invite Jeff Gerstmann from Giant Bomb and Justin Calvert from GameSpot up here to join us for a little end of E3 wrap-up. Jeff, grab yourself a mic there, or two,